Hello and welcome to the Wednesday edition of A Proud Malcontent on this Wednesday, the 12th of November. I am Pete Bell and I am a Proud Malcontent. What are we doing today? Honestly, I don't know. This has not been a good day for me. I have days when I'm just not firing on all cylinders, and this has been one of them. So I was late getting to preparing things for today, and after the intensity of the IFS presentation on Saturday past, I kind of wanted to move away from the whole constitutional issue, sort of a wee bit, yeah. So I was looking for something other than that to talk about. Doesn't matter. It always comes back to the constitutional issue anyway. But I will say a few words about the IFS Autumn Convention. It's an excellent event. There's no question about that. Well attended. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was over 100, I think, maybe 120. Lots of interesting speakers. I was hopefully one of the more interesting ones, but that's for others to judge. Certainly my subject matter was more interesting than most of what we were hearing about. A lot of it was just recycling stuff that we've all heard before. Much of it was talking about the vision for an independent Scotland, including Jim Robertson. I've forgotten his name. He was talking about changes to the pension system, and I had seen this presentation before, and it is very interesting. He takes a dry subject and he does manage to explain it very well, and it's certainly promising. But then we moved on to the afternoon, which was supposed to be about routes to independence. And things were juggled around a bit. There were supposed to be three talks. It started with Professor Aileen McHarg giving the legal perspective. And her conclusion, unsurprisingly, was pretty much what John Swinney is doing. But this isn't that she was siding with the SNP as such. She just, by following the law as it is and sticking strictly within this British law, that is an inevitable conclusion. The Section 30 process is the only process that the British government has recognised as legitimate, legal and constitutional. The fact that it involves betraying a fundamental principle of Scottish democracy, and the fact that it will not work, it will not lead to independence, they're beside the point. Aileen McHarg was getting a bit of stick from a few people because she appeared to be merely pushing the John Swinney strategy. But she wasn't. She was looking at it from a strictly legal perspective, just within the narrow confines of the law. However, that's fine, and she was correct, and pretty much everything she said, as far as I can remember. The only thing is that this is politics. It's not just the law. There's a political aspect to this as well. And when you add the politics into it, the conclusion is very different. The conclusion is to get as far away from the Section 30 process as possible and take control of the process ourselves in Scotland, our democratic institutions. And that, of course, is what the Scottish UDI was all about. Many of you will have watched the live stream. Many of you will have seen the recording. I'll provide a link when this goes online so that you can go and watch it. I would really like you to go and watch it. I would really like for people to better understand the Scottish UDI strategy. But so I gave my talk. I tried to be as concise as possible in getting across exactly what was involved in the Scottish UDI plan. Unfortunately, I ended up talking for 20 minutes. I knew I was over my time. I was supposed to have a 10-minute talk followed by a 10-minute Q&A, which is hardly sufficient, but you know, there was a lot of other people wanting to speak. So yeah, I lost in Q&A because I talked for too long. That is entirely my own fault. I've no complaints about that. What did seem odd, however, was that I wasn't included in the panel at the end. I'm only speaking for myself. There were other speakers who could have been included but weren't. Greg McCara, for instance, spoke. Quite honestly, I haven't a clue what he spoke about. I really don't. And we had stuff about the UN process, but as you'll be aware by now, that UN initiative, the Liberation Scotland initiative at the UN, that in itself cannot lead to independence. It merely smooths the path for us. It augments a local and internal political and parliamentary process. But without that political and parliamentary process, the UN initiative, even if successful, does not really do very much. Somebody has to be on the ground to pick it up and run with it. Now, that ain't going to be John Swinney. John Swinney will probably ignore it. If the UN puts Scotland on the list of non-self-governing territories, I could just imagine Starmer and Swinney ignoring it and just disregarding it. After all, it's to do with Scotland, and Scotland isn't important to them. They don't consider Scotland at all in any of their decisions because they don't have to. The union gives them the power to simply ignore us. And so that's what they do. So I was a bit disappointed at not being included in the wash-up panel at the end. It seems a bit strange to bring in other people. For example, Leah Gunn Barrett was on the panel and just talked about the ICCPR and the campaign to get the ICCPR incorporated into Scots law. Which is fine, yeah. ICCPR is a good thing. It should be incorporated into Scots law. We should be expanding the amount of direct democracy in Scotland. However, that has absolutely nothing to do with Scotland's cause. It has nothing to do with the independence movement. Because the ICCPR, if it was written into Scots law, it would only apply to devolved matters. We could insist on referendums, but only in devolved areas. It would not amend the Scotland Act. Control of constitutional matters would remain with Westminster. So, as it turned out, and as I expected, I was the only one in an afternoon devoted supposedly devoted to routes to independence, I was the only one actually talking about a route to independence. I wrote a piece recently. I can't remember where well, it's on my blog, but I was making the point about how disappointing it was that none of the nominally pro-independence parties uh, uh, took the opportunity to present their routes to independence. None of them. They didn't show. Greg McCara is still with the SNP, I think, and others maybe with other parties. I, of course, am with none. But there just simply wasn't a range of choices. There is only this one, and so all we can do is conclude that they don't have a plan. If they'd had a plan, they would surely have had accepted this opportunity to present it. But no, none of them did. Nobody did, apart from myself. And, well, that's disappointing. It just reinforces my claim that Scottish UDI is the only way. If it's not Scottish UDI, it's something remarkably similar, because it really is the only way. These are the steps that must be followed. The Scottish Parliament must retake powers over the Constitution. I think that's as much as I want to say about that. Slight disappointment. Nonetheless, I was glad of the opportunity. I have now presented Scottish UDI at Scottish Sovereignty Research Group Conference twice, and now at the IFS, the Independence Forum Scotland, this once. So there are people there taking it seriously, and I have to say, the talk was well received. I couldn't get out. I was dying to get on a bus and get home, but I couldn't get out of the hall for all the people that came up wanting to talk to me. It was great in a way to get that positive reaction, but I wanted to get home. I mentioned Starmer earlier on and said that in the context of the Section 30 process, I said that he might refuse, but of course he might not even be there because there's rumours of conspiracies in the background, conspiracies to oust Starmer. Oh, and the media love this. They absolutely love it. Yeah, a bit of conspiracy, a bit of drama in politics. And the man at the centre of this is Wes Streeting, who I've always thought should have his picture next to the word smug in the dictionary. He just looks smug. So he's the one who's supposedly leading this plot, and there are supposedly around 50 front bench MPs Labour MPs ready to resign. And Starmer and his people are saying it's not happening. Anyway, we're ready for it. We are fighting for this. Starmer will fight for the leadership. Blah, de blah, de blah. And of course, Wes Streeting denies. See what I mean about smug? Isn't that the very image of smugness? Yeah, I just don't like him. He denies it, of course, which in my mind pretty much confirms it. But the point about this is that it's all about Starmer. It's all about Starmer and Streeting. And that just seems wrong to me. It's all about the personalities, the people, the personalities, and the parties. And it brought to mind something. Well, it reminded me of the tribalism within the independence movement, and the fact that everybody is focused on parties, that they're not focused on the content behind the party slogans and logos. They are not interested in the substance. It's all just about the names of the parties. And it's the same with this Starmer Streeting supposed battle. And there's nobody asking, what would he do? What would Wes Streeting do differently? Or what has Sir Keir Starmer got going for him? I think that would be a very short answer. But nobody's asking these deeper questions about what Wes Streeting might do differently, how he might change the party, being the leader. And it's the same with the independence movement, and people just not asking the questions, just latching on to the parties the way the media latches on to these personalities. And that subject actually came up in an exchange on Facebook, and I thought I might as well just read a comment to you, the comment that I made about this very subject, that people just don't learn. They continue to make the same mistakes, and they continue on parties and personalities rather than cause and country. Somebody had said that they thought that people would learn their lesson when they shifted from one party to another, and from all the times that parties and personalities have let them down. You'd think that they would learn a lesson. This point was put to me, and this is how I replied. People don't learn, not if learning is inconvenient. Look at the number of people who thought Alba Party was different, and the number of people who, having found that Alba was no better than the SNP, immediately hopped on the Liberate Scotland bandwagon. What more proof do you need that people don't learn if learning means doing something difficult? The party loyalists are party loyalists because quitting the party is too difficult for them. People don't ask the awkward questions of parties before joining because it is easier to just see them as a solution. Look at Liberate Scotland and the number of people now insisting that it is the way to go, just as they previously insisted just as strongly that Alba was the answer, just as they at one time believed the SNP was it. Liberate Scotland has nothing. It is an empty shell that people can fill with whatever pleases them. But when push comes to shove, there's nothing. There is nothing there. This is true of all parties to some extent. They are all a lot emptier than it suits some people to believe. The nominally pro-independence parties all talk a lot about independence and give the impression of having both a plan and the political will to carry it out. They have neither. All they have to do is make it easy for people to convince themselves, and the ones who want to see a solution will. These parties have nothing for Scotland's cause. Individually and collectively, They are a parasitical presence feeding off the independence movement. Yet still, the vast majority of people believe that the solution lies in which party you vote for. It doesn't, because being the solution is hard. One or more of these parties will only become the solution if they are forced to do so. Why would they do the hard thing if people are prepared to accept the empty thing? Right, point made, I think, and I I think it's an important point. People aren't learning, and we still have this situation where people think of parties as solutions, or leaders, personalities as solutions, but they don't actually examine the nature of the solution. It's just it's as if a party such as Liberate Scotland can simply say we are the solution, and everybody goes, "Oh, look, there's a solution." uh, and nobody seems to learn from this. They don't seem to learn the lessons from the past. We just keep repeating the old cycle, very much like the two-party British system, where it just keeps switching backwards and forwards between Labour and Tory. And just like this issue of leadership, is two people wanting to lead the party, two people wanting to be prime minister, Streeting and Starmer, and they're going to fight it out. The media will make an entertainment out of it, and a lot of people will enjoy seeing that entertainment. They'll enjoy watching it as it goes on. But what do either of these personalities have? What do they offer? And nobody seems to be asking that. It's simply a choice, Streeting or Starmer, as if it doesn't really matter which of them. Just one is just as one will be better than the other. People claim that one will be better than the other. They each have their supporters, but what makes them better? That's never explained. There are big claims made. Keir Starmer is a natural leader, blah, blah, blah. He united the party, blah, blah, blah. Why did he have to unite it in the first place? No. And now we have Streeting pretty much making the same claims, and nothing changes. Nothing changes. Look what happened when the Tories were ousted and British Labour took over. It all just continued the same, or it got worse. It went even more to the right, the political right, and it's been appalling. Everything that Starmer's done, and all the lies that he told to get where he is. Well, those same lies got Wes Streeting where he is. So I don't see that there's a choice here. As far as I'm concerned, they're both, they're a pair of. I'll say no more. I'll say no more about that unless something pops into my head. Spare a thought, people. Spare a thought for poor old Anas Sarwar. Look at the dilemma he's in. He's the SNP pressing Anas Sarwar to pin his colours to the mast. In other words, to make a choice between Starmer and Streeting. Who is he backing? Is he backing Starmer or is he backing Streeting? And the poor man just doesn't know which arse to kiss. It's a terrible dilemma for him. So he'll probably go into hiding and just stay out of the picture altogether. until it looks like one or the other is a surefire winner, and then he will jump aboard. The man is slippery, Anas Sarwar. He is slippery. You don't get to be leader of British Labour in Scotland without being a very slippery character. You've had to do lots of stuff leading up to that position that required a very high degree of slipperiness. He's a bit oily. And I assure you there is absolutely nothing racial about that, because I'd be saying exactly the same about many other politicians. But he's the man in that job. He's the leader of British Labour in Scotland. So that is the thing that I'm commenting on, not his colour or whatever. Totally irrelevant. The man is a bit of a scoundrel, and certainly a slippery critter. So it'll be interesting to see it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The Streeting Starmer ding dong, and how Sarwar deals with it. But as I say, he'll probably just go into hiding and avoid answering questions about the usual slippery way that politicians do. They're asked a question, they say, no, but the real question is, and then they talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about, something that doesn't embarrass them, or something that doesn't embarrass them quite as much. Not that they're actually capable of being embarrassed. They don't have that kind of self-awareness. But things get labelled as embarrassing. Political hot potatoes, the ones that they don't want to touch. And for Sarwar, the choice between Starmer and Streeting is very much a political hot potato. And he doesn't want to pick up either one. Yeah, I could almost feel sorry for him. Right, moving on. What do we? Oh yes, there was this. I it would be nice if we could have a bit of good news for a change. And here it is. An exact date is set for the planned 2026 return of Scotland to Europe Ferry. This is a service that is to operate from Rosyth to Dunkirk. And this will be excellent for Scotland. There was a service operating before. It stopped operating in 2010. I think it operated for a couple of years, maybe 3, I'm not sure. But the last sailing was in 2010. There was a fire on board the ship, and then the company operating it. This is a picture of their ship. The company operating the service decided it was no longer worth it. They couldn't make any money, so they just abandoned it. And there's been a considerable campaign ever since then to get the service reinstated. And I know Douglas Chapman will be somewhat pleased at this news. He has been very prominent in the campaign to return the service. So yeah, he'll be well pleased, and he should get a lot of credit for the success of this. I know he's been working hard on it. But should we take this at face value? It talks about an exact date being set, but it all depends on a number of things. It is by no means certain yet. The big sticking block is the need for goods checking between for a border control post because we were dragged out of the EU. If we were in the EU, we wouldn't need these border control posts. And there is no infrastructure for that at Rosyth, apparently. And it requires the UK government to sanction a change. I think it requires a change in the law so that the ships can use the border control post at Grangemouth. It's just over 20 miles away. I'm not sure if that's 20 miles as the crow flies. There's a river to cross in the meantime, so I'm not so sure it's as easy as that. However, that is the plan. But this depends on the British government. And the British government aren't exactly known for being cooperative in these matters. There's a sense of urgency in Scotland, and even the Scottish government has got on board now, belatedly. But that sense of urgency, I doubt very much if that is shared by the British state. I doubt very much if it's shared by Douglas Alexander, for example, the Governor General, Douglas Alexander. There is still doubt about it. The spokesman said, you never can say it's done until it's done. But I think everyone's now pulling in the right direction together. Well, this is somebody who wants this to be successful. So they're obviously talking up the chances of success. But I still have doubts, because there's this problem of the British state. I could see them having some difficulty with sanctioning this, with making it easy. I suspect they want to be as obstructive as possible, because for them, this is the thin end of the wedge. If there's one service, why not others? Why not more services? I don't know where they would leave from. One from further up north, Aberdeen, for example. These would be worthwhile services, and if that expands and exports are going through Scottish ports, which could well happen, and if then Renfrew is developed as a passenger as well as a goods hub for air transport, then that puts Scotland in a very good position, and it takes the legs out from under one of the British state's arguments against independence. You can't do it. All your goods have to go through England because you haven't got the ports infrastructure. So it takes away that. And if there's even one, that undermines that argument. So I can see them being less than keen, less than enthusiastic, and it's not as they have to say no directly. They can simply delay. They can simply bat the thing around for a while. They've been known to do this. They've been known to deliberately delay things. It is promising that the Scottish government is on board. Kate Forbes has apparently written to Douglas Alexander saying that the Scottish government is supporting this venture, and the Scottish government is saying that they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that it actually comes off. I'm not convinced by that either. Why would I be? There have been so many things that we've been promised. The energy company, so on and so forth. There's been so many things promised. I mean, you remember the rebuttal service that was supposed to be introduced. Remember, remember the convention that was supposed to be formed. That was how often has that been promised? It's never happened. So there's still doubts about it, but it would be good if people could get behind it in whatever way possible, and just make it clear that this is a popular service, is going to be a popular service, that is something that people want, really want, because in that way, the the government will get to know that there'll be support for it. Public support does help. Zuni says, hope you feel better soon. I hope so too, Zuni. I really do. And my old friend Gordon Henderson's on, and he's telling us that Scotland needs a disruptor in 26. Well, as ever, Gordon, you are not wrong. We need a disruptor, and what we have is somebody who is trying as much as possible, John Swinney, is trying as much as possible not to disrupt anything. And the same applies to the other parties. They're not actually trying to disrupt anything other than other parties' chances of electoral success. They're all trying to do each other down, which just gives the overall impression that they're all as terrible as they all say they are. That's likely to be the public perception. But yes, we need a disruptor. We need a disruptor that will break the system. Reform UK is a disruptor. I've spoken about this before. Reform UK's success, at least as far as the polls are concerned, the success in climbing up the polls, and very rapidly climbing up the polls, is entirely down to the fact that they've taken on the role of disruptor. But you get bad disruptors and good disruptors. Reform UK is definitely a bad disruptor. There's a lot of stuff they just want to break for the sake of breaking it, or they just want to talk about breaking it, but actually have no intention of doing so and haven't figured out how they would break it anyway. So it's disruption for its own sake with Reform UK, because that's what people want. That's the mood people are in. They look and they see the whole system. They see the whole thing as useless, incompetence, and corruption, and just ineptitude, and avarice. And they attach this to the entire system, the entire system of democracy, and the entire system of government across the UK. And they want it to end. They want to sweep it all away, and there's this appeal of a fresh start. And there really isn't a possibility of a fresh start. There's always something of the past remains, and it always has an effect. So we need a disruptor, but not necessarily a disruptor like Reform UK. We need a disruptor who's prepared to break the system which keeps us in the UK, which keeps Scotland in the UK. And again, I'm back to Scottish UDI again. That involves breaking a bit of the UK and being very selective, very clever about which bit you break and how you go about breaking it and when you go about breaking it. Gordon asked, does the end justify the means? Well, it can, but I'd be very hesitant about that, to accept that as a general rule. When you say means, well, that could be anything, up to a military coup. Would the if that was to restore good governance, would that means justify the end? I'm not sure. I have, in any case, Gordon, always regarded the restoration of Scotland's independence as an end in itself. It is justified as rectifying an ancient injustice. And if rectifying injustice isn't an end in itself, then I don't know what is. So the left in particular say, oh, no, independence cannot be the end in itself. Well, I don't say it is the end. I say it is an end. It's an end among many, abolishing poverty and hunger and homelessness. These are also ends. But restoring independence ranks with these things because it too is a gross injustice. So we just want nothing to do with it. We don't want nothing to do with the union. It is an injustice, and we suffer under that injustice every day. Everybody in Scotland suffers under it, whether they're aware of it or not. It impacts their lives all through their lives. It impacts their lives. And this is strange because this is why so many people who come to Scotland from England, I mean, the ones who actually come here to live and work and raise a family, say, not the second homeowners. I have no patience with them at all. But I'm talking about the people who actually settle here and make Scotland their home. It's them, and I've been told this on countless occasions, and I've heard other people say that they have encountered this on countless occasions. So I think it's a very real phenomenon. When people come up from England, they see they see the injustice to which many homebred Scots, if you will, they have become inured to it because it's been there all their lives. People come up from England, they see the contrast. They see the contrast with both the situation as it is and what they are told. They're told all this about Scotland being a somewhat backward country and an impoverished country, and with a huge alcoholism and drug abuse and obesity, probably all of that. And this picture is painted. And these people come from England and they immediately see it. They see the injustice. They see the lies because they haven't become inured to it. They haven't had a chance to become accustomed to it. So that's a thought. There are a lot of moves to have a restricted franchise when, I'm going to choose to say when, we get a proper constitutional referendum. And that is, yeah, that is fine. There was a time when I just outright rejected that idea. I did not like the idea of a restricted franchise. I have come around to it. Stephen Duncan, the other week there, he showed that in actual fact, that what's having a bigger effect on support for independence is younger people leaving Scotland. That is having a vastly bigger effect on support for independence than incomers from England is not having the huge effect that a lot of people claim. And I've always wondered if we would lose more than we gained by keeping English people in Scotland off the franchise. However that was done, I'm not sure. There have been various suggestions, and it is a thing that the UN approves of. So I've been talked around to at least giving the matter some consideration and not rejecting it outright. I think perhaps some form of restricted franchise will be in order. And what Stephen Duncan's come on, he says the end of the beginning, which is a bit cryptic, Stephen, but I'm not sure if you're talking there about the presentation. I will try and identify the one I'm talking about and post a link to it, or post the presentation, the slideshow, so that people can can see that for themselves. If I haven't already, I try to remember to post the slideshow every Sunday when I put the Sunday episode online. I sometimes forget. I sometimes forget a lot of things. So I'm not quite sure what Stephen's getting at there. No matter, I'm probably going to wind up a bit early today because I'm just not feeling great. My legs, my hips give me a deal of trouble, and I did suffer for Saturday's outing to Glasgow. Long periods sitting on a bus and long periods sitting in a hall are definitely not good for me. So I'll take a wee while to recover from that. Stephen's back on. He says, what does he say? Let me get that up on the screen. Loss of young yesers overseas. There is also a positive from folks moving in from outside the UK. They're more yes than no. Yeah, that's incomers from elsewhere, from other than within the UK, mainly England, obviously. So thanks for that clarification, Stephen, and we will talk to you on Sunday when you will be asking the question, polls, who needs them? I think that's the title you gave to the talk. And you'll be looking at the way polls are conducted, the methodology and such like, whether they're to be trusted or relied upon or whatever. It's that whole subject. So that seemed like an opportune moment to get a plug in for that. And just to finish, I had to laugh. I really shouldn't, but I had to laugh. And I read an article in the National about Tesco taking a Christmas card off the shelves. And I just took one look at it and I thought, how the hell did I ever get on the shelves in the first place? In case you can't see that properly. The most offensive thing to me is the font that they've used, which is, it's not pretty. I think it's one called Wood Gothic, but it's been grungified, so it's almost illegible. I have actually clarified this one a bit. So it says, remember, it just isn't Christmas unless you push your body to the brink of alcoholism and diabetes. Well, as you can imagine, that has caused a bit of outrage. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the fact that anybody thought that they could get away with that. It's just, it's just so mightily stupid. There's nothing else you can do but laugh. This the person who did this, whoever did it, they probably consider themselves an expert in the greeting card business, and yet they publish something like this. I suppose it appeals to cynics. I suppose it's just a dreadful way of saying it. I think if they found a way of saying it without mentioning alcoholism and diabetes, I think they might have gotten away with it. But this goes down, I believe, as the first mention of Christmas on this show. I consider that allowable, given that we're in November. I was part of a campaign, or I supported a campaign at one time some years ago to keep Christmas in December. Well, I've kind of given up on that. But I just wish we could keep it the hell out of August, September, and October. Just November. That'll do fine. I think Winterval, as it's called now, I think that begins in November, in late November. I'm not sure about that. Well, Winterval's all the festivals over that period. There are a lot of them. Various religions, etc., have festivals, and Winterval is the name somebody gave to the whole thing, them all. I do recall there was a huge fuss. I think it was in Birmingham. It was in Birmingham, where they called it Winterval. I think that's possibly where it started. And there was a huge thing in the Daily Mail and the Daily Express, as you would expect. They're renaming Christmas to pacify the Muslims. There's nothing to do with renaming Christmas. But I do recall reading that for years afterwards, Birmingham City Council had to employ somebody to reply to all the complaints that they were getting about their attempt to rename Christmas. They weren't renaming Christmas at all. That's the bloody newspapers for you. Okay. Anything more? There was something else. Oh, yes. I don't know if I really. No, I was going to say something about New Scotland Party being a year old at the end of this month. But I think I'll leave that for another time because we've only a couple of minutes left. So best left for another time, I think. I've been thinking a lot about New Scotland Party. It was put on hiatus because the Manifesto for Independence campaign was the important thing. The abortive Manifesto for Independence campaign, which has been anything but a roaring success. There's fewer than 1,000 signatures when I was looking for at least 10,000. People just haven't taken much interest in it at all. It might be my fault. Maybe I just haven't been promoting it as I should. So we're now back to thinking about New Scotland Party. And to be honest, I said I wasn't going to talk about this. But to be honest, I'm tired. And properly launching the party, it was hard enough work. The wee bit it did last year, that was hard enough work. Properly launching the party is going to be a lot harder, and I ain't ready for that, I don't think. So a decision has to be made. For the moment, goodbye.